ball, but a lot of like trauma too. So I didn't go get an extra trauma certification, but that's how I function at our hospital. That's why I'm like the liaison to our trauma department, so gunshot wounds and people who fall and all of that kind of stuff. That's what I do.
I'm a ER doctor in Cook County, specializing in emergency medicine with a subspecialty in EMS. I'm the assistant EMS medical director for the Chicago West EMS system, providing medical direction for Chicago Fire and hot solid EMS.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's how
Just so you guys know, police and firemen, if we ever injured, our #1 go-to hospital, believe it or not, is Cook County.
Okay.
We're gonna try to get you to county first. That's gonna be the choice. County does some, not taking nothing from any other hospital, county does some amazing work. Like we've actually, I've had my students actually watch and help them when they cut a heart out, you know what I'm saying? Crack the chest, put the heart out, massage, we had a gunshot victim. But then once we pulled the heart out, we seen the bullet was through the heart, so it was a no-go. But they would have never gotten that kind of experience, you know, they were hands-on involved. And the ER doctor that was in charge that day, you know, helped them, let them get involved in what was going on. So we had a big shooting, drug deal went bad on the west side. So we all went, we took the patients over there to county, and it was quite an experience. And they really enjoyed it. They got a chance to learn something.
Yeah. You know, we rely on y'all though, so you know a lot of times how patients do, what myself and Ameera do is more or less a lot of protocols, a lot of regimented activities, but usually whether that patient even has a chance to be helped by us is usually by the great paramedics. So we're all very close with our paramedics who come in, and especially the black ones. So that was how I learned about the fire brigade, was because of my black paramedics, and then I saw on TV some of the works that some of you all's former students, you know, have gone through. So never underestimate or undervalue what you all do, right? Like you all interface with the community every day. You're gonna be out there dealing with the people every day. And we do that on our off time, and when we're in the hospital where we're on like kind of our terms, but to be able to go into the hoods where you all come from and be able to help people amongst the chaos and stuff, like that's truly commendable. So you can keep doing y'all things, okay?
Any more questions? If I get any questions, I want to ask any questions. We don't want to short anybody.
And remember, medical and trauma is on the national exam for you to get your EMT license.
Yeah.
How long did
again,
it take? I got a question. How long did it take y'all to get where y'all at?
Oh, for me, so undergrad, that was 4 years, and then med school was 4 years, and then residency was 4 years, and then I did an EMS fellowship, so that was 1 year. So I guess, I don't know how many years.
13 years.
Okay, all right.
So for me, same thing, college, medical school. I took a year off in medical school to fight for the trauma center over here and to like do a lot of community outreach. So that was 5 years for me. So now you're at, 9 years. And then residency for me was 3 years because I went to UFC, so I was able to catch up on a year. So for that, you're talking about the same amount of time, 12 years. But I met Ameera when I was like in medical school. So I think I was maybe like a first or second year medical student. And we got a friend, we share a friend who I went to high school with, who she went to college with. And she was already a ER, I think you were already intern.
Mm-hmm.
So she was already in emergency. I hadn't even considered emergency. It was actually when I met her, and I was like, okay, and then I started hearing other people say emergency, and then I did the trauma center fighting for that, and we were able to get one, and I was like, okay, maybe emergency medicine is a thing for me.
What do you like most about being in the medical emergency department, helping the patients? Like, what's your most, like?
The best thing for me is that I grew up seeing all of the things in the emergency room in the streets. So I grew up on the south side, right? So I saw my friends shot. I saw my own brother got murdered to gun violence. I've seen people die from asthma attacks. I had a friend who had really bad asthma and sickle cell as a child, missed all kind of school. And so like he actually almost like remediated a year because he was always in the ER because he never used the health system because we have healthcare disparity. So he didn't have a primary care doc. I had uncles, aunts, feet cut off and stuff in their 40s and all kind of things like that. And I had friends who were raped, abused, pistol whipped, abducted due to like drugs and stuff. And then the ER is the only place as an ER doc where you can touch everything that hurts our community. So the things that brought my family and my friends pain, I'm able to address that as a doctor. right? So I see people all the time, and they go up to my nurses or to the other like white docs I work with. They be like, "You don't know? I know him since he was a little baby," all the time. Or it's somebody I knew I grew up with, or whatever the case is. So I'm in my home community doing that work and able to give that back. And then working with like the paramedics, nurses, stuff like that. I went to high school with a lot of them. So like I'm the same age as a lot of my ER techs, a lot of my nurses. Like Mike in the other room is like my best friend. So he was one of my techs. So for me, that's a family. And I don't think any other job gives you that. Or like I could come in and help somebody. And then you can advocate to help the whole country. So nobody can speak louder on any issue in the community than myself or Ameera. If you want to talk about drug abuse and overdoses, who's going to be able to speak to that more than the ER doc? You want to talk about domestic violence and sexual assault and intimate partner abuse? We see the ills of that every day, as you all will. But we end up being like the kind of end all, be all for it, where all the pieces of the puzzle come together and you find that out. Same thing with gun violence, same thing with alcoholism, or just all health issues. So we get to speak to that at a bigger level to be able to say, hey, we need to change this in this community. So doing that kind of work helps us do that too.
And I decided I want to be a doctor when I was really young. My dad was a medic in the Army. He was also a Black Panther and made me watch Roots over and over again. So, deciding what kind of doctor to be, I wanted to be in a neighborhood and at a facility where we were helping black and brown patients, people that look like me, people who don't have access to care, people that don't have finances, people who, suffer from structural racism. So that's the reason I'm at the county. I trained there. I went away for a year and I came right back and got hired there. I didn't want to go anywhere else, despite, some places literally almost paying double my salary. But I mean, it's a blessing to be there and give back to our people. And just like as far as EMS, just like Abdullah was saying, like really pre-hospital care is really where it's at. I went to the scene of a cardiac arrest when I did my EMS rotation. I realized, oh my God, this is nothing like the hospital. This dude would not make it to the hospital if like the paramedics weren't on scene working this dude the way they are. So we ended up transporting him. I asked for another dose of Narcan, and he ended up going from being terminated to transported. The patient still died, but still, it intrigued my interest. The fact that you could be in there on the scene, people got their cell phones out, it's chaotic, cars honking, and people are still able to do their jobs. So I said, well, if I can get into the community and make a difference like this, and that's what I want to do. So excited, got interested in EMS.
Yeah, and know both of us, because we wanted to work in Black communities, we both take big pay cuts to work in the Black community, right? And so like, even though white doctors flock to work in our communities who may come from more, myself and Ameera, we wasn't rich growing up. And so we both take like substantially less in money to work because that's where our hearts are. So like we put our passion first. If we couldn't sleep at night, if we went to sleep like, hey, I'm comfortable in life, but I'm not doing what I wrote that I was gonna do when I applied for medical school or for residency, or when everybody's on Twitter, when our friends who might be politicians or community organizers are Twittering or Facebooking or Instagramming back and forth about social uprisings, about George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or something like that, we know that we're doing our part, right? So what we do, even though it's not glamorized, it's not none of that kind of stuff, like that allows us to sleep at night. Even though we're seeing people killed, murdered, dying early from whatever, we're able to give back a little bit. We know we fighting, put it like that. We know we fighting, so if they're, we taking big blows and haymakers, we're right there fighting to the end of it. And sometimes you can't trade that for anything. No matter money in the world is gonna pay me to go somewhere outside of my community and then watch as this, everything unfolds in the streets, and then we're not anywhere to be found. So, yeah, so that's a common thing. That's not special about us. That's just how Black docs who come from their communities operate. And that's the same thing that Q is doing here, and that Terry and everybody else is doing for you all, is that they're equipping you all to go back to your own community and do this work. So note that, right? Like it's not always that's when people talk about being woke, ain't nothing more woke than you can do other than raising your Black family and giving back to the community.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, you all, let you all get back to the studies.